So just recently, we just got back from a trip to Berlin. I have to say, what an amazing city that was. It kind of like caught me by surprise in certain regards of just about how much I really enjoyed it. Now, don't get me wrong, like when we go on holiday, we're always expecting to enjoy it. But I normally go on holiday, I normally go to say like Norway, the Algarve and that. Like, it was more like landscapes, beaches, you kind of like out the way a little bit, hiking and stuff. And it's not to say that we don't do the shopping. We go into like the towns, but just small pockets of people, just your local like kind of like towns, not like the big cities where everybody's at. But this time we decided to do something different and actually go somewhere like that. And we chose Berlin, mainly because of obviously the history. I've never been to actually Germany before, and I'm so glad that we did. So in this video, I'm just going to go through basically what we've done, the main places that we went to in 5 days, because we've done quite a lot in those 5 days. I'm not one for relaxing or chilling around or anything like that, nor is the rest of the family. We like to see as much as we possibly can whilst we're away. So we first landed in Berlin, I'd say probably about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and obviously this international airport is absolutely stunning. I know they had a lot of problems actually trying to get it up and running, but whilst we were there, absolutely perfect. And one of the main benefits with this actual airport is at the bottom is a train line that runs into central Berlin. Now, the airport's not that far out the main city, but no matter what, you'd either need a car, a taxi, a coach or something to get in there. But having the train line that runs straight into Berlin straight away was absolutely perfect, especially with the amount of train stations that are en route as well. If you have any accommodation in central Berlin, you get there super easy, even if you need to jump on like a tram whilst you got out the train station. So that was absolutely perfect. And a good thing that we did set up before we actually went out there was we brought like this pass, and it's like for 5 days, and you got unlimited travel on trains, trams, buses and that lot. I think it's about 50, 55 quid, something like that. Worked out around about 10 a day. And that was absolutely perfect. And with how good the transportation system is there, it worked absolute wonders. But once we actually got into the main train station that we actually got off of, our accommodation was, I think, roughly about 5 minutes away, so it wasn't that far away at all. But once you get off, first thing you notice straight away is loads of graffiti and that lot and stuff. And that's one thing with the city, is that like, even though there's loads of graffiti in quite large pockets of areas and that, it's not dirty, it's not out of place or anything like that. It's kind of like part of the environment, it's part of the culture. And you just walk around and you see pockets of it, and it just, I don't know, it just adds to the kind of experience. I absolutely love it. Like, taking photos and doing filmmaking and that lot, it's just like an absolute dream. But once we went to our place, because it worked out like we were getting there like early evening sort of thing, by the time we settled and got all our stuff out and that lot, we thought we'd just like wander around just the kind of area that we were actually in, and straight away just went and seen like some courtyards. We took a walk down the river to see like this beautiful cathedral in the night and that lot. And then also we experienced straight away is like I say, these pockets, like you walk down, it's just like a normal street, and then you walk down this alleyway and it's just like graffiti everywhere, and at the end is like this smokers bar, and in there, sadly, we weren't allowed to take photos and videos, and I didn't try and sneak one or anything else like that. It's just the most unique experience I've had. Like, I'm not a drinker or anything else like that, but you go in there and it's just completely dark, covered in graffiti and that lot. And it's like I say, you just find these little pockets away, and that's basically all we've done for the first night. Now, the main first day that we did was we actually decided to set off just to explore like the main city area of Berlin, like the shops and the streets and stuff like that. And so once we left, like we went back towards where the cathedral was. Obviously it's daytime now, and this is also part of what they call Museum Island. Now, there is loads of different museums. There's so many museums in Berlin. So, like I said, we were on there for 5 days. So we kind of like made a pact that we weren't going to try and go in all these museums and that, because it was just going to take up far too much time. There was a couple that, I was a little bit gutted that I probably would have liked to see if I had more time. But like I said, there's just so many to see. So we decided just to do like a couple and just basically just go for a wander and just kind of experience Berlin from the outside without having having to walk around, you know, each particular museum in itself. And we ended up walking down what they call Under den Linde Road. I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically this road's been around since like the 1600s, and like they got all these government buildings and that lot down there, and this is where you see all these beautiful sandstone buildings and that, and there's tons and tons of history here, especially from the World War and that lot and stuff. And it's just a nice road to walk down. It's not that far until you get to the Brandenburg Gate. Absolutely stunning architecture. Obviously this has got tons of history as well. I think it's built during the Parisian times, and then it obviously through the times is, you know, resembled and been a symbol for different things, you know, during World War II and obviously the Cold War and whatnot else whilst it was there. So we went and seen that. I will say though, that's the only time that we had like so-called scammers, you know, people trying to get you to sign stuff, to try and give money and that lot of stuff. You just tell them to go away. That was the only time, I will say, the whole time in Berlin. That was the joy there, because a lot of people were on there, watch out for pickpockets, watch out for this, watch out for that. We didn't experience any of that apart from just for that one moment, and that was it. Now you can walk down and there's a beautiful park. We decided not to. We decided to turn left, and we went down to the first part, which was the Jewish like, it's like a memorial, and it's basically like this architecture has designed like this. It's like these stones in the way of like graveyards, and this is to resemble all the Jews that died during World War II. So the architecture is really interesting on the top and whatnot else. It's, like I say, it's just basically just black stone blocks and stuff. So we had a little bit of a wander through there. Now, you can go to a museum that's underneath this, and this is where one that we did actually go to. And though I don't have any photos and videos in here, because even though I really wanted to, this was like the most surreal experience that in a museum I've ever had. So you basically just go underground, and once you are underground, you go into this museum, you get scanned, you have to put your bag through and whatnot else. You go through, and it is like quieter than a library, that's all I can say. Like, it's just the most eeriest place ever. And it's just basically just like these plaques on the wall, that all lit up and that lot, and it kind of like explains like the history of all the people that died and these other things, like in the first room. And then you walk through these other rooms, and it's basically they got that, but on the floor, and they're like plaques on the floor. I guess they kind of resemble like gravestones, I say, but they were like stories and letters from people that are written from concentration camps before they sadly died. And though it is very, very interesting, quite like a somber experience in there, because like I say, it was eerily quiet, like just complete silence, honestly. And then like no one wanted to speak or anything else like that. Bearing in mind that there's people from, you know, different backgrounds, from different countries and that lot, and everyone just kind of like just followed suit and just, yeah, it was very, very quiet. Very interesting place to go to. It's completely free if you wanted to actually check that one out. Once you come out of there, then you just go into a completely different world, and you go to the Potsdam Plaza, which is basically got like the Sony buildings, some shops and that lot, and they got like a food quarter. The food quarter is absolutely amazing, got loads of different types of food, but I mean lots of different types of food from, as in like different countries and that lot. And one thing you'll notice when you go to Berlin, like nothing's crazy overpriced. Now, yes, you can go to more expensive places if you wanted to. There's one place we went to called Peter Pan, like a burger place. It was a bit more up thing because it was my birthday. But apart from that, like if you just want to go to the food quarters and stuff, and it's good food as well. Like everywhere was just good food. Honestly priced. It's not like London prices or anything else like that. It was absolutely fantastic in that regards. So we done Potts Plaza, then we headed down to like where the part of the Berlin Wall is. I think they call it Terror or something. I can't remember. I'll put it up on the screen for you now. But basically, like you got like this like parts of the Berlin Wall, and then it's got like the history and whatnot else. So that's interesting. And this is just like basically just a loop round that you can actually do. And then you get down to Checkpoint Charlie, which is obviously there from the Cold War. The dividing line between the Soviets and the Americans, and the famous standoff with the tanks and all that lot of stuff. Here, like, there's a lot more shops, there's a lot more going on and whatnot else. The only thing I'd say though, right, is honestly, don't go in the museums and that. Like, I think the museum, we were tempted to go in there to have a look, right, but the fact that they were trying to charge us like 22 quid each, and it's just like, like information on a board and a couple of cars and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not paying 100 quid. I'm not being tight, but I'm not paying 100 quid to go in there. So we left that, and then basically this was taking up a large parts of the day. We did see a couple of other little bits, and then the only other thing that we did then basically we tried to see like this tower, but it was sadly closed. But we caught like the train then over to like this famous like shopping area, and had this church that was bombed during World War II. There's not much left of it, just like a small structure and that lot. They decided not to rebuild it. They just kind of left it there as like a memorial kind of site. But I will say though, like there's loads of shopping. But when you go shopping here, this is where you get your Louis Vuitton and your Prada and that, and it's completely different to like the actual main part of Berlin and that lot where you've got your Potsdam. We've got you kind of like your more normal shops. This lot, there's a lot of high upper market kind of shops and that lot. So, but it was interesting to see, and that was basically like the first day. We did a few other little bits and pieces, but that was mainly like the first day. The other places that we actually went to on different days. Now we did spend the whole day visiting the. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name because I'll butcher it, but it's a concentration camp basically, and this is basically situated I think more towards the northeast of Berlin, just outside like the main Berlin boundary. But you get off a train, easy, just I think it takes about 40 minutes once you got up there. We just got off there, and we took a walk then towards the actual concentration camp. I think it took about 15 minutes. Now, it's only because it was a bit longer to wait for a tram. But it's if you go there, it's well worth the walk. It's just really interesting to see like the different buildings and stuff like that compared to like the main city of Berlin. But we went into the concentration camp. Very somber experience once again, very interesting. It's not like Auschwitz or anything else like that. Most of it's kind of like disappeared, so to speak. A lot of it's been destroyed. But it's really interesting in regards to you walking around. There are other places like where the bodies were kept, and you got the mortuary and other bits like pieces like that. And you got like these buildings that give you loads of information. And then you got the Russian side of it because the Russians then took over the concentration camp at one point. And there's different pockets, and it's very, very interesting. And it's one of those places, obviously because of World War II and other things like that. It's one of those places that you kind of, I don't know, like when I was in Berlin, it's kind of those places that I really felt like I needed to go and see. Now, there are other places in Berlin that you can actually see in regards to World War II, like bunkers going underground and stuff. We didn't go and see any then, like I say, we were on a limited time in that lot, but there are plenty of other like interesting pockets of places that you can see. And one that I was a little bit gutted seeing was there's an airport there, and it's still like the way it was in the 1930s, just like it's like a museum. It looked amazing, but it's only open on certain times and that lot. It was just it was hard work to try and get to see. But anyway, the concentration camp was absolutely amazing to go and see. Not in that regards, but to kind of experience and learn like the kind of the history and that lot. So that took up like the main part of the day. Obviously traveling out there, walking around and stuff. We did do other little bits and pieces afterwards. Another day we went down to I go so bad with names. I'm sure it's pronounced the Senussi Palaces, but basically this is from the Parisian times from King Frederick. He decided like he wanted to build these palaces out, and this place is beautiful as well. One of those places, again, we didn't want to spend too much time walking through all the buildings and that lot. We were on a bit of a tight schedule, only because we had activities booked in the night. But just walking around just the outside, the architecture, walking around the beautiful grounds, because you first get dropped off by a bus outside like where the main Senussi building is, and this is actually, like I forgot to say, is in Potsdam. This is a beautiful area, and you just see like that, you see the grounds, and then as you're walking through, and bearing in mind like these grounds are huge. I mean, acres and acres. Like, it can take you well over an hour or so just to walk from one end to the other, trying to stop off and see things. But you have like the main, like these governmental buildings that they built at the other end, and it's just super symmetrical, and they just stand out and that lot. It's just work of art. It really is, especially some of these particular buildings, and it's really, really worth seeing. It definitely is. But one thing that's absolutely brilliant about this was instead of having to walk all the way back, there's actually like a train station at the end, and you can basically just hop on a train and it'll take you back to the main Potsdam train station. Now from there we decided to go visit the Dutch Quarter. Now This is a very interesting place, and like I said to you, like earlier in the video, right? Like this is what makes Berlin so interesting. So basically, like this guy, this Parisian king, decided that he wanted to build like this whole like Netherlands like neighborhood. It's got hundreds of houses, you know, rows, and you know, all set into blocks and that. Apparently it's just because back in the olden days, people from the Netherlands were the best craftsmen, best builders in the world, and he wanted to try and get them to stay over there. But so he built this kind of area, and it's just a completely different vibe to everywhere else that we actually been. These beautiful red brick houses, and he's just walking along the streets, and it's just all these quaint, unique little shops. And then there was like this market, and you got like this bridge at the end where you got these trams coming through, or like this, not bridge, sorry, like a gate to the actual to the Dutch Quarter. It was just a really interesting place. Like it just looked like, I don't know, it's just completely different. That's all I can say. It's just so well worth actually going to see. But like I say, we were on a bit of a tight time schedule. So like we done the palaces, we done that, and then we had to get back because this was actually on my birthday, this one, and we had activities booked. We went to the ice bar, which was very interesting indeed. I had a couple of drinks in there, non-alcoholic because I'm boring, and then we went to do the swing over Berlin. It's at the top of a hotel, and basically you go on a swing, which is I think it's like 38 stories high, and you swing out over the building and that lot. So that was a bit of fun, a little new experience for myself. So we've done that. The other main places that we actually went to as well that was super interesting to do was the Soviet War Memorial. Now this, I don't know whether it's just me because I like symmetrical things and like taking photos, but this I just found brilliant. So basically, once again, catch a train straight away to this train station, and as soon as you get to the train station, it opens up, you just walk straight out, you're straight in the park, and that's why Berlin works so well. And we walked through into this park, and it's just symmetrical. You got this beautiful like statue at the end, but before that you've got like these walkways, these trees on the sides, you've got all these individual like concrete like engravings or statue things like they're on the side, but all tell their unique story. Just a super interesting place to actually visit. It really was. Another place that was just off from around the back of that, literally from around the back, is it just turned into like a normal park then, which had like your river running down. But this is like with Berlin, that they have these people they're all sat out, they're just like with these pit fires and that lot, keeping warm and that lot. That's one thing I loved about the Germans, right? Is like it was cold while we were there, but people just don't care. They just sit out anyway. But one thing they did have on the river was it's got this like little island with this bridge that goes over to it with this building and that, and it's all beautiful and that lot. It's very nice to go in there, and they did food on the other side. But one thing we didn't realise you could do, which we probably might have sneaked in at some point, is as we went there, they do these hot tubs on the river. So you hire out these boats. I don't know whether like the boats are like self-propelled so they can come back and forth, I'm not too sure, but you can just sit in these hot tubs, and they just take you up and down the river, and everyone's just staring at you and that lot. So they looked absolutely amazing. That'd be a good experience, especially with how cold it was and that. And they do some nice food and that lot there. So that's another place that's really worth going to. Another place was Raw. This place is unique in itself. This is just off of another train station where as soon as you get out of the train station, there's graffiti everywhere on this one, completely everywhere. And you go to this place, and this, I think after the 1990s, I think this is, I think after the Cold War, I think these buildings were kind of like left like derelict, and no one had any deeds, or no one really owned them or anything else. And people moved in basically, and they put graffiti in there, and they turned them into these world-renowned nightclubs. Now, I'm not much of a partier or anything else like that. I think they do like hard house techno kind of thing there. And obviously my daughter's, well, she's like coming up to 17 now, so I'm not going to be taking her out partying or anything else like that. But I will say, it would have been one of those places that would be very interesting to go just for like an hour, just to get in. But I think like a lot of them are quite notoriously hard to actually get in because they're always busy in that lot. But this area is just stunning. It's just graffiti everywhere. You've got these skate parks. They've got all these different pockets in that lot. The only thing was a little bit sad is because, like I said, we were short on time. And with this one, when we walked through, we was talking to this guy. Basically, he was opening up and he said if we're going to do some street music and he's going to do some food and that lot. So a little bit gutted we couldn't come back from that. But we did take a walk into like the local neighborhood, which is quite interesting. I think it's the first time that we actually walked where we went to that it felt like, you know, like a residential Berlin, and we had a drink and bite to eat, and then you kind of like just seeing like how normal people in Berlin are actually just going about living their daily life. So that was a very another interesting place that we actually went to. And the reason why actually we managed to get to all these different places, because like I say, they weren't like in the center of Berlin, all in different pockets of areas, some of them just on the boundaries of Berlin, and that which took a bit of time to actually get there. And the reason it worked, like I said in the beginning of the video, is because of how good Berlin's transportation system is. It's just like it's not super sophisticated. I'm not saying like it's like Japan where you got these super like, you know, space age trains or anything else. The trains are pretty much basic. But one thing about them is like you miss a train, there's another train 2 minutes later. It pretty much, you're in central Berlin or just on the outskirts and that lot. There's trains constantly, and then there's trams as well to help you get around along with buses and that. And that's one thing that really made it work for us whilst we're out there, is the fact that you could just get around so easy. There's so many different train stations, so many different trains running constantly. It was just super, super easy to get about. And like I say, it was also like, people were super friendly, the food was amazing, it wasn't overly busy even on the weekends or anything else like that. Even like with the places that we went to, okay, you could argue that it was a bit more out of season, but it was just a brilliant experience. I couldn't recommend Berlin enough, and it wasn't overly priced or anything else like that. You can get by quite easily out there without spending an absolute fortune and that lot. And it's not, I would say, like, especially when we were out during the days in that lot, like the museums were free, even the concentration camp was free. The Sanusi palaces were free, just walking around the grounds. Obviously the Soviet place, War Memorial, free. All these places we went to, completely free. Now you can pay to go in all these museums as well, but it was just super, super easy. It was super easy, super good. Absolutely loved it. There was tons of other things, like other little things that we managed to cram in along the way. But I wanted to give you a quick rundown exactly of how our trip to Berlin went. And like I say, I can't recommend that place enough. I hope that people go and see it more. It's absolutely beautiful, and you will enjoy every moment of it. But one thing I will be doing though is I will be going into more history on all the places that we went to. I love history. I love educating myself on places that I go to and that lot. I made a couple of videos already in regards to a couple of places that we've been to, and I will be making more in regards to the concentration camp and other things like that, and history and the rundown on that as well. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and if you have any comments, please leave it down below. See you in the next one.